and welcome to The Reasons I'm Broke. I'm Daniel, and Kelly actually couldn't be on the show this week, so I don't want to just put up no show, so I'm going to go ahead and do a solo show, and she actually was awesome enough to do a solo segment that I'm going to attach at the very end. So anyone that wants to know her pick of the week or her pass of the week, you'll hear it right after this podcast, this portion of the podcast. And as always, for new listeners, this is the podcast, The Reasons I'm Broke, where Kelly and I discuss what we bought this week. Comics, movies, TV, video games, statues, toys, pretty much everything. A lot of Batman talk, a lot of Pokemon talk, a lot of everything talk, mainly what we enjoy. We usually kick it off with some news. There was a new Nintendo Direct on Tuesday, October 1st. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the bad news. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze has been delayed until February 2014. So any Wii U owners out there, that's one less game that you'll be playing during the holiday season. So definitely make sure that Super Mario 3D World lasts you until next year when we have Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, all the big hits for the Wii U. 2 new Wii remotes compatible with the Wii U will be released on November 1st. One is themed for Mario and the other is themed for Luigi. I already put in my order for the Luigi Wii remote. It does have the Wii Motion Plus attachment with it, so it will work on the Wii U. And green, of course, looks great on consoles. It looks great, in my opinion, on cars. Kelly and I actually have a PlayStation 3 lime green. We sent it into colorwayrepc.com a couple of years ago, and we love it. It looks amazing. And this Wii remote with the Luigi theme to it, since we're going to be needing a Wii remote for the Wii U when we do end up picking one up, that's the one we're going to end up using. They're going to be very limited, though, Brokettes, so make sure to put in your order on Amazon, GameStop, wherever you get your accessories and video games. Sonic the Hedgehog will return to Smash Bros. For the Wii U and the 3DS. As you remember, Sonic was in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Very popular character, except now with the video that they've shown, I've noticed that the character looks heavier, looks faster, more like Melee, which is what I really wanted out of Brawl. Brawl was always a little too floaty, a little too light, and a little too much for the casual player, which is what the Wii was. And now with the Wii U, hopefully we get something closer to Melee, and from what we've seen with the videos and the screenshots, it looks like we will be getting that. What I most hope for is a better online experience, more tournaments, maybe something that Nintendo can put together through the online service on the Wii U. And I'm really excited. Hopefully we can get more characters in the future that we haven't seen already. Last original one we saw, I think, was the Wii Fit Trainer. So far, we got the Toon Link that just got announced also, and now we have Sonic the Hedgehog. Awesome additions, but I hope that Toon Link isn't just another clone of Link. Maybe they did some more original moves closer to the Wind Waker than they did before. And Sonic the Hedgehog, again, I know Al, who is a regular listener of The Reasons I'm Broke and a frequent guest of the show, he says Sonic is the fastest thing alive, and he's going to be using Sonic. I'll continue to use Fox, Falco, or Wolf, whichever one they didn't nerf. A new Super Mario 3D World gameplay video was also released as part of the Nintendo Direct. They showed off another power-up in which it splits Mario into 2 characters, so you can control 2 Marios at once. It's almost like a mirror image, so you can collect multiple coins, collect multiple power-ups, defeat multiple enemies, and better use the Wii U software, controller, everything to solve puzzles in the Mario 3D World. I really liked Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Wii. I've been waiting for that 3D Mario game since now we have Super Mario Bros. U, and I love it. Still haven't beaten it, still working on it. But this 3D World Mario game, it looks like it's going to be just as fun as Galaxy. Hopefully as fun, because Galaxy 1, the physics, when you got to play with the gravity, the switches, and even the graphics, I don't see how they were able to top any other Wii game by having a game look much better than the Super Mario Galaxy. Something got announced for 2014, Kirby is getting a new side-scrolling platforming game for the 3DS. It is set to release again sometime next year. We still don't have a definite street date on it, but it's good to see Kirby back on a 2D side-scrolling adventure. Just like the 3DS games that have been coming out that are platformers, you're able to switch the character from the foreground to the background, defeat certain enemies, get past certain parts of levels by using that feature. And of course, if you have the 3D turned on, you can better get that effect. Like always, Kelly and I say we usually play with the 3D off, so that's probably what we'll do with this Kirby game. I'm just happy to see Kirby in another adventure. The final piece of Nintendo news that I wanted to touch on was the demo for Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies is now available for download. As a reminder, it will release exclusively as a digital download on Nintendo's eShop on October 24th. You can download that now, today, tonight, tomorrow. Download it, check it out. It's got full animated anime sequences. You got gameplay, you got the movies in there, the whole cinematics look much more better than they did in the past Phoenix Wright games, even in Edgeworth. So this is going to be, it looks like it's going to be the best Phoenix Wright game to date. On to Pokemon news. A shiny Giratina is now being distributed at GameStop. This event goes on until October 20th. If you remember, they gave away Dialga and Palkia, also shiny forms. Rumor is that they will get Mega Evolution, so definitely get that Giratina. I think it looks like it has the best color palette out of the 3 shinies. Mega Charizard X is an alternate Mega Evolution to Charizard exclusive to Pokemon X. This finally makes it a Fire Dragon type. It has the ability Tough Claws, which improves its physical attacks. This is huge news for Charizard players out there. This announcement, along with the Mewtwo X, is the thing that is making gamers switch over from Y over to X. And people are not looking back. Initially, a lot of people got Pokemon Y for the legendary Yveltal. Now it's going on over to X. Mega Mewtwo X, Mega Charizard X. So far, it looks like there won't be a Mega Venusaur X or a Mega Blastoise X. If there is, you'll hear about it here on the podcast. If you're a Charizard fan, you're going to love Pokemon X. Me, Venusaur, Bulbasaur, of course, you know about it. I'm sticking with Y, but I'm going to be going up against a lot of Mega Charizard X, Dragon types, and Fire. Copies of Pokemon X and Y have been leaked and sold early in Canada. While you're more than welcome to look up the game's spoilers as they are shown, we will not be discussing them here on The Reasons I'm Broke until after the game's release. On to some Batman news. Barbara Gordon will appear in Arkham Origins before her role as Batgirl or Oracle. From the Arkham Origins Instagram, I quote, "In Batman Arkham Origins, players are introduced to a teenage girl by the name of Barbara, someone who fans will later come to know as Oracle. As the daughter of Police Captain James Gordon, Barb meets Gotham's mysterious masked vigilante for the first time." This is very exciting. I don't know if we're going to see her as Batgirl yet, but the dynamic between Barbara Gordon and James Gordon is great. We see it in the Batgirl comic that Kelly and I read all the time. So Arkham Origins is going to play up on that and introduce the first meeting between the Dark Knight and what will later be Batgirl. And finally, DC's Villain Month was a financial success. Straight from Newsarama and Diamond Distributors, quote, "This year, Villains Month and the start of their Forever Evil limited series and the 3D motion covers featured on each of those titles was the centerpiece of a month that saw an overall industry sale increase of more than 25% over last month and more than 23% over September 2012 sales, when DC rolled out their zero-month event. According to data released by Diamond Comic Distributors Friday morning, DC Comics scored 45.17% in unit share and 40.39% in dollar share, compared to Marvel's 29.83% and 28.49% share in their respective categories. So Villains Month, however you may view it, like we've talked about it last week, regular readers were probably hurt the most by Villains Month because the stories weren't as strong as they should have been for a lot of these villains, especially Sinestro, and then newer villains that got their debut in the New 52, like Joker's daughter, had an awful beginning. But with that, DC made a lot of money, retailers made a lot of money, and it looks like every other company also got a slight bump from the Villains Month and from Marvel's Infinity event. People that came in to get their 3D covers said, "Oh, look, Marvel's also got the Infinity," or "Let me pick up this book as well." So it was a great thing for everyone, no matter who you happen to only buy from, DC or only Marvel or only Indie. Which just buy what you like, get the stories that you enjoy, follow the characters that you like, and every company is going to have their strengths and their weaknesses. But with Villains Month, it seems like everyone did gain from it. So that's great. At the end of the day, what you want from DC and from comic book retailers is for them to continue making comic books. We enjoy them. We're going to get the bad. We're going to get the good. But when it's good, it's awesome. Court of Owls. You got the Death of the Family, Kelly and I read. And then you've got the Swamp Thing and the Animal Man. And then you've got your indie books like the Star Wars, which we'll actually talk about later. But all in all, it was very, very successful for DC. Successful for anyone that also got their bump in sales like Marvel and the indie industry. And with that, we'll jump into comic books. We'll start with Indie, Pokemon Black and White Volume 12, written by Hidenori Kusaki, and the art is by Satoshi Yamamoto. This continues the two legendaries in Black and White. You now have our main character who has acquired the legendary that will go up against the rival or N in the story. It's not so much the rival like in the games like Ash and Gary, but N is the villain here. Just like in the anime, very similar, except in the anime they resolved how he learns that how you treat Pokemon is key to raising them, as opposed to just thinking that trainers just use them to battle. But in here, he gets another badge. He goes up against some dragon-type Pokemon. There's a lot of action, a lot of backstory. If you've been following this, the last month's issue, the volume, was really good. 12 is even stronger. If you're not following Pokemon Black and White, you're a fan of the video games, definitely pick them up. They're all available out there. 1 through 12 is out now, and later on they'll start compiling them together just like they did the Pokemon Adventure series. Star Wars The Lucas Draft number 2, written by J.R. Rinsler and art by Mike Mayhew. The Star Wars number 1 I really enjoyed. I felt like the characters were reinvented really well for what the audience was looking for today, and Luke Skywalker was essentially, it is George Lucas, which is pretty funny because he looks like George Lucas when you're reading the comic book. But issue number 2 took a bit of a dive. It seemed like the character of Luke didn't progress much and was kind of an asshole. It seems like I'm against the world and no one else is going to stop me and they won't listen to me. Whereas in the first issue, it was more about introducing him and the characters, the interactions he had with everyone else. That's going to be a big piece in the story. But in this, he's just kind of like this arrogant dick, but you know it's going to make it out so that he was right the whole time. But I'm just not really rooting for him at this point. I wanted to see some more of him dealing with the Empire and the various other characters and how they grow and how their relationship intertwines, because every character comes from a different planet and a different place. But let's see where issue 3 takes us, because you can't just judge a series from 1 or 2 issues. So on to that, God is Dead number 2, written by Jonathan Hickman and art by Dia Amarim. God is Dead number 2, and now we have the conflict between humans and gods. We had the introduction in number 1. Here in number 2, it's all about conflict. It's conflict with regular mortals, and then these super... We still don't really know if they're gods or not. It hasn't been revealed, but now there is a conflict within the gods. These gods come from different parts of the world, from different histories. Somehow they work together in the first issue, and the second one we have problems. Batman Black and White number 2. We got several writers in this. Michael Uslam, Jeff Lemire, Rafael Albuquerque, Dan DiDio, and Rafael Grandpa. The art is by Rafael Grandpa, J.G. Jones, Alex Nino, Rafael Albuquerque, and Dave Bullock. As you know, Batman Black and White, it is compiled of a ton of short stories by some of the biggest names in the industry. Batman Black and White number 1 was phenomenal, out of this world. Batman Black and White number 2, my pick of the week for this week. It continues strong. The art is something you won't see in mainstream New 52 storylines. This is art that artists really can change the way the character looks. They can change the way they see the Joker. Maybe the Joker's grin is not necessarily scarred on his face or just painted on or a part of a chemical thing, but maybe it's teeth that are just completely overgrown or completely painted on instead of, or like on the cheeks like they did in The Dark Knight. And you see that in this Batman Black and White issue. You see a new incarnation of the Scarecrow. You see a ton of Batmans. Some of them look like an old man Batman with wrinkles. Some of them you can't really tell what he is. He's so undistinguished, and I like that. This is what that book is about. The writers can pretty much run with the character and do what they want. Same with the artists, and really interpret these stories as they read them in the script. And it continues strong with Batman Black and White number 2. Again, my pick of the week. Detective Comics number 24, written by John Layman and art by Jason Fabok. There's the final battle between Batman and the Wrath, the anti-Batman. There's a final issue of that arc as well. We now know exactly why Wrath is going against the Gotham police officers and why Batman needs to stop him and how dangerous Wrath is. At the end of the day, this was more of a win for the Gotham City Police Department than it was for Batman. But like the comic book says, spoiler alert, they needed it. They needed this win after the tragic events that occurred right beforehand and how many of them could have died and many of them saw, life just slipping away as they were. I'm not going to spoil exactly how Wrath gets to them, but it is very powerful. It was really good. I felt there should have been more of a fight between the two characters, Batman and Wrath, but I'm glad we got the arc that we did, because it really showed that the Gotham City Police Department, some of them may not see Batman as a hero, but by the end of it they understand that Batman is not creating these villains. Instead, sometimes the police department is the one creating them. The big one for DC, Forever Evil number 2, written by Jeff Johns, art by David Finch and Richard Friend. This is the issue in which, and I enjoy this, I love talking about it, and you'll hear it time and time again if you listen to this podcast enough. I like the villains that we sympathize with, the characters that are fleshed out, the ones that have a motive that we may agree with, even though we may not agree with their methods. And you finally get that with the Earth 3 characters in Forever Evil number 2. Owlman, Ultraman, you see what's going on, the relationship between the two, and if you read The Secret Society, now you sympathize even more with the Owlman. And here, there is a dark secret with the Owlman that is revealed. And finally, we do see which hero or heroes make it out of the events from Trinity War when they met their matches in Earth 3. And finally, the last book this week is The Movement number 5. It's written by Gail Simone and art by Freddie Williams. The Movement number 5. The Movement has been awesome. I'm really liking The Movement. I'm sure Kelli is as well. And it continues to dive even deeper as we see how the Movement plans to use the 2 police officers that they have in custody or that they have as prisoners to make them into an example for the rest of the world, but not in the way that these 2 officers think. And that's where we see the action in this comic. And the pacing is great. The art is awesome. Gail is nailing it, of course. It's a really strong series, The Movement. If you're not picking that up and you're complaining that there are too many Batman books, this is why. Give your money to The Movement. Give your money to the Animal Mans, the Swamp Things, even to the Green Team. Kelli really liked it. I'm liking it as well. And The Movement, not quite my pick of the week, but it was excellent. That will wrap it up for comics this week. Again, sorry for the shorter podcast. Kelli is not here, so I can just pretty much ramble on about anything, and there won't be that back and forth. So that's why we have this shorter podcast this week, but we should be back on track next week. Thank you again, like always, for tuning in. My pick of the week, again, was Batman Black and White number 2. If I had to have a pass of the week, I would actually go ahead and give it to Star Wars, the Lucas Draft number 2. Not nearly as awful as Joker's Daughter from last week, but it was something that compared to number 1, it was a big jump backwards. And with that, we'll go ahead and hear Kelli's thoughts as we close out on this week's podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ReasonsI'mBroke. Let us know what made you broke this week. #ReasonsI'mBroke. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. We're 1 review away from doubling our reviews, guys. Just 1 review away. Just download iTunes, or if you have it already, just go to the iTunes store. The Reasons I'm Broke, search it. Leave a quick review, and it goes a long way, actually. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Hello, Brocats. Sorry I couldn't be here this week, but when work offers you more money, you don't say no. I did want to pop in and give you my picks and passes of the week, as well as an honorable mention. First off, for my pass, this week I don't have one. Each comic continued their stories very well, they're leading up to something bigger, and there wasn't one where I went, yeah, I really shouldn't have picked that up this week. As for my pick, is Forever Evil number 2. This one's written by Jeff Johns with art by David Finch. We got to see a lot more of each of the personalities within the crime syndicate, and from what we've seen, I think they're ultimately going to tear each other apart from the inside. We also had a great ending. I was so excited, had a little fangirl moment, dreaming of some fan fiction now, but it was a very good ending, very surprise ending for me. For an honorable mention, Batman Black and White number 2. These are stories done by 5 different artists, 5 different writers, and each one had its own charm to it. I fell in love whether because of the story or some of the fantastic art. Definitely something that you should pick up as well if you have the money. But that's it for me for this week, Brokettes. See you next week.